It's clear to you that de-icing the wings will not be done in a jiffy. You look for phone outlets but see none, only photos of phone outlets. A voice announces your gate is now 39C, 12B, 9A. It's like musical chairs, if musical chairs made you sob in the pet relief area. A child picking his nose stares. His parents have abandoned him. The airport will raise him now.
Don't let flight delays ruin your vacation. Go on a real vacation. Go RVing.
When Sandra doesn't talk to a Mattress Firm sleep expert, junk sleep presses the wrong buttons in her brain. And Sandra presses the wrong buttons in the elevator, leading to a dreadful journey for her and the accountants now headed up to floor 42. 7, 8, 9. While Sandra avoids eye contact, let's reflect on how a better mattress would have led to real sleep. If you need real sleep, head to Mattress Firm and unjunk your sleep today.
Driving is a rite of passage in many places, and today we discuss the biggest pet peeves while behind the wheel. We also get a little nerdy and talk about fun facts about the driver's license and some unique laws around the country. Hi, I'm Monica.
And I'm the other Monica.
And we are two Monicas and a microphone. Join us each week to talk about nothing serious.
Seriously.
We'll talk about life, differences of opinion, our favorite obsessions, and any topic we find interesting. So buckle up, because we're going for a ride.
Ooh, where are you taking me today, Monica?
Well, I'd like to go someplace warm and sunny, so let's just plan on heading south.
Got it.
Friends, today our topic is driving me crazy. Most of us, if not all of us, drive and have been driving for, so I'm going to say a long time, not to age myself. And how everyone gets their driver's license and the test you take, how old you were, your experiences driving, it makes us the driver we are today. So we're going to share some of our favorite driving stories, along with some really interesting facts about driving in general. And perhaps we'll find out what drives you crazy. Monica, do you remember learning how to drive? How old were you and what was it like?
I was 15 when I learned how to drive. My mom mainly taught me. I don't remember a lot about it other than my mom used to just read a book so she wouldn't be so anxious. I do remember that. And I do remember one instance where she freaked out a little bit. We were up in Illinois and they have really deep ditches. And she just started freaking out that I was going to go in the ditch. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, Mom. But now, all these years later, now that my son is driving, I totally get why she was freaking out.
Okay.
Because I have definitely said to my son, pull over, you're going to kill us. It's really scary teaching someone how to drive. My mom was actually really chill with me, and she was an absolutely great teacher.
You mentioned your mom teaching you. I have far more memories of driving with my mom than I do driving with my dad. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because, my mom was in charge of the grocery shopping. So if we had to go to the grocery store, I did the driving. Where with my dad, I don't really remember driving the whole family to church with my dad in the car. Granted, we went to a church that was 2 blocks away, so it wasn't really much of an experience. But yeah, I do remember my mom spending most of the time in the car with me, and I think she was pretty relaxed. I hope I am. I do regret that I never learned how to drive a stick shift. My husband said he would teach me, and we never got around to it, and then he hit a deer, but that's a different story.
Yeah, I think we only have to worry about that if we're going to end up living in a dystopian apocalypse. We'll probably be fine just knowing how to do manuals.
Mad Max in my tank.
Yeah, I know. I always think that. I'm like, this is when I'm going to need this.
So what was your first car?
A 1969 Camaro.
Oh, that would have been my dream car at the time.
It was my dream car, and my dad was a drag racer.
Okay.
He loved old cars. He had a 62 Corvette and up until he died. And then my brother has it now, but
at least it's in the family.
Oh, for sure. And my one brother had a Chevelle. My other brother had an old Blazer. So I grew up around old cars. We used to go and hunt them, and we called it hunting for vintage tin, and just go down country roads looking for old cars in people's, this is Arkansas, y'all, in their yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we used to do that. I fell in love with the Camaro. I saw it on one of these trips and the body style just spoke to me. I loved it. When I turned 16, my dad helped me find one. I did look at a pink and purple one.
Oh my.
Oh, right. I'm so glad that my dad helped me down. I wasn't even that girly of a girl. I mean, to like pink and purple, but I just wanted a 69 Camaro so badly I would have taken any.
Sure.
So I helped pay for it and he helped pay for it. It was a joint venture. So I got a 1969 Camaro, black racing stripes on a red car. And it is a highly coveted car and I still have it.
Oh, that was gonna be my next question. Girl, that is a hot car. I bet you never had any roadside trouble.
I never, and y'all, I ran out of gas several times because it needed some work that never got done to it.
My parents at one point owned a 68 four-door Impala. That thing was boat. It was huge.
Did you drive it?
No, I wanted to, but it sat in our yard for so long. My dad ended up selling it to some kids down the street for $500. So my first car ended up being a 1990 Pontiac Le Mans with 100,000 miles on it, and my dad handed it down to me. So I was so grateful, grateful just to have a car.
You grew up in Michigan, and it just makes me think we're talking about our first cars. We're talking about learning how to drive. I have a lot of family in Michigan, and when I was a new driver, I went up there and I learned about, I think there's a term for it. I want you to explain it though. The Michigan left. Do they teach you that during your driving tests or what?
I mean, it's just innate. So from the time I was 8 until I was 16, it was normal. For those of you who don't know what a Michigan left is, a Michigan left is when you have to drive past your intersection, do a U-turn in order to make a right turn. Okay. So if you can picture it, and I will have a diagram in the show notes. You drive through the intersection, you pull into the left turn lane, and then you proceed to make a U-turn. You go all the way to the right lane and then you turn right. So you are making a left turn.
It's a Michigan
in the Michigan
left.
way. Oh my God. It was just so normal to me. I didn't even realize nobody else did it until I started living in other parts of the country.
My cousins always called it a Yui.
A Yui. Okay. I've never heard that term.
Yeah, I think they grew up in a different part of the state than you did.
It's to the point where when you live there and someone tells you to turn left, you don't even have to ask. They don't explain it. They just expect you to know that you have to drive through your intersection, pull a U-turn, and then turn right.
That's great.
I used to drive a lot for work. I mean, a lot. Hours and hours and hours every day in the car. Sometimes a 3-hour drive one way. I'd spend the night and then the 3-hour drive back. Do you find that you enjoy or avoid driving? Because I used to enjoy it and now I avoid it.
I enjoy driving. If I'm going to go out with friends, I want to be in control and be the driver. If I'm going on a long road trip, I really enjoy the monotony of the drive, especially if I'm alone. Now, if Zach and I are together and it's a town I'm unfamiliar with, I prefer that he drives. Or if
Paul
we're
always
on
drives.
A road trip. Yeah. Oh, Zach always drives.
I offer.
Oh, yeah.
Just like Zach, I offer to do the dishes when he's doing the last one. I want us to get into the nerdy part.
Yes. Talk nerdy to me, Monica.
I noticed in doing some research, thanks to my research assistant, Monica, that around 77% of Americans between the ages of 20 and 24 had driver's licenses in 2014, compared with almost 92% in 1983. I find that statistic very accurate because I think people are moving away from driving, especially in cities, and young people live in cities.
True, because it is the ages of 20 through 24. I personally have seen it happen with a few people and it being a choice due to pressure and they're not ready for it. And I do think that in the 80s, you were definitely pushed out of the nest whether you wanted to or not. Monica, what are your daily driving habits? Are you going into work? Do you drive just a quarter of a mile every day? Do you Uber everywhere? I don't even really know.
Friends, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a stay-at-home mom. And before 2020, I feel like I was a very active mom who drove around and took my kids all sorts of places. A lot of those places now have requirements and things. And so we've spent a lot more time at home. I probably drive 50 miles a week. And I used to drive hundreds and thousands of miles. I don't know if this transition has made me avoid driving when I don't have to. If I go out to dinner with friends, I take an Uber. I mean, for various reasons, right? Sometimes I'm too lazy. I don't like to drive in the dark, especially on the freeway. And that's just getting worse over time. So I might have to, I don't know, go to some therapy so I can fix it. Darkness happens every day, in case you didn't know.
It might just be your eyes and your age. Sorry, Monica. Ain't no therapy for that.
Hey, I'm spring chicken. Now I want to talk a little bit about something I would say 99.9% of people have experienced. I'm going to talk about getting a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
Because parking tickets, yeah, whatever. But I want to talk about getting a speeding ticket. How many have you gotten and when was your first one?
I'm not exactly sure how many I've gotten. I think.
Oh my God, that many?
3. I mean, I think it's 3.
Oh, okay. I thought it was so many you didn't know the number.
No. I got my first speeding ticket in college by a town cop who basically profiled the car as a college student and pulled it over. Honestly, I was driving one of our sorority sisters' cars and it was brand new and nice. Not anything I would have ever had in college.
Okay.
And I was speeding in her car down one of the little side roads. They pulled me over, gave me a ticket. And the reason I say profiled, it really upset me, is because when I got the speeding ticket, they wrote the word college student in the description. And I felt a little targeted because small town cops, they do target people. Just, it's the way it is.
But were you speeding?
Of course. I deserve the ticket, y'all. I've never gotten a speeding ticket that I didn't deserve.
So does your heart start pounding? Does your face turn red?
I almost cry every time. I can't help it. And I've gotten pulled over for speeding several times. I almost always get out of those tickets. I can't tell you why. I've never been able to figure it out. It's some cops will give it to me. Some cops won't. Even state troopers. I've had 2 state troopers give me warnings and they're notorious.
It must be those Juvenile lashes.
Yeah,
that's your eyes.
Hey friends, Monica and I have recently discovered a company with amazing skincare. Juvenet uses cutting-edge stem cell science to replenish and repair your skin 4 levels deep. You'll start seeing a more youthful appearance in just a few weeks. Juvenet also has incredible faux mink lashes to make you feel fancy every day.
Y'all, if you want great skin, nails, and lashes, go to juvenet.com/foxy. That's Juvenet, JUVENAE.com/FOXY. Sign up as a preferred customer and receive immediate discounts without any fees. Yes. Oh my gosh. I am so not that person. I do not bat my eyes at the cop. No, I'm usually trying to fight back all the tears. The Indiana state troopers, they're pretty nice. I've been pulled over in all sorts of states. All sorts. They didn't want to give me a ticket, but he said to me, he goes, I really don't want to give you this ticket because it was a rough time. And he's like, I don't want to give you a ticket, but your registration is expired and you were speeding. I have to give you one or the other, and I'm going to give you the least expensive. But whatever, sometimes things happen.
Yeah, things happen. Well, I've been pulled over a fair number of times. Definitely, from the sounds of it, not as many as you. And I'm thankful for that. My first ticket I received when I was 17. I was 17 and my friend Carla, hey Carla, if you're listening, Carla loved fast cars. She loved cars in general. She had a Thunderbird and I had my little Le Mans. I forget where we were driving back from. She started speeding up and then she looked at me and I started speeding up and I was like, yeah, I'm going to win. We're on the freeway. There's no winning. Oh my gosh.
There is no
winning. And yeah,
winning.
sure enough, lights go on. I get pulled over. Oh, I probably was 16 still. I got a big fat ticket. I think I was going 20 over and he only wrote it for 15 over.
Wow.
And that was really nice because 20 over is a bit different.
Yes.
I went to court with my dad and they gave me probation and I was terrified that I would do anything wrong, turning right on a red when I'm not allowed to, not stopping long enough at a stop sign, parking, because if you do anything wrong, then all of a sudden
you get your license taken away, right?
You just get points and then your insurance goes up. So then my next ticket, I was driving to Chicago with someone I worked with. We're driving from Kalamazoo. It was so early. We had to leave so early. It was probably 6:30 in the morning, and the rental car was amazing, and it drove so much nicer than my little Le Mans that I was just going. And yeah, state trooper pulls me over and he gave me a ticket for going 20 over.
Oh no.
Yeah. And then in Kalamazoo as well, I was driving past a school going 35 instead of 25. I got pulled over. So all of a sudden I went from no tickets for 5 years to 2 in a row. And I just didn't want another one because, you know, you get 6 points and all of a sudden bad things start to happen to your insurance rate or something like that. I don't know enough about it. Oh, and then one time in Los Angeles, I was leaving the theater. I had just seen Wicked and I'm just driving down Hollywood Boulevard. I got pulled over. And my heart does start pounding. I don't start to cry, especially if I know I've done something wrong. But in this instance, I was seriously confused. It's night, it's dark, it's a busy street. I have no idea what happened. So the officer has me roll down my window. He says, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" And I seriously had no clue. It's because I didn't have the front license plate on my car. I had already been in LA for 3 years.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you.
I got pulled over in the school parking lot for that as well.
Yeah, so I didn't have the front plate on. And then his next question is, "Hey, who works for the CIA?" Because when I drove from Michigan to LA 3 years before, my dad was like, "Hey, let's just put this in your rear window, like on the ledge there." And it's an official CIA folder with the emblem and everything. And honestly, Monica, I just left it there. My dad thought it would protect me as I drove cross country alone.
Your dad's
no problem. So cute. There it is in the window. Oh, my dad? Okay, well, I'm going to give you a warning, but you really need to add that front plate. Because I'm like, where am I supposed to go to add the front plate? My car wasn't even equipped to do it.
Have to drill into your cars. We used to have to do that here.
Wouldn't you know that within a month, I rear-ended someone who didn't even notice I rear-ended them and had to get my whole front bumper replaced. So I had them add it.
Oh, goodness.
Now that we've told everyone our personal stories about what great drivers we are, because we are, I just want to give a quick list of the top 5 states with the most speeding tickets. So everyone listening can be cautious when you're in these states. Number 5 is Washington. Well, wouldn't you know, I lived there and I only received 1 ticket in the 9 years that I lived there. Washington State doesn't have an income tax, and so ticket revenue is a big one. Next up, we have Georgia, the state with the most speeding tickets per capita.
Have you ever driven in Atlanta? I can believe that the majority of those come from there.
I have, but honestly, it's been so long. It's been at least 20 years. Followed by Oregon. I used to do a lot of driving in Oregon as well. Never got a ticket there. It's probably because I needed to not get another ticket for a while. Like 7 years. 7 years. I have to stay clean for 7 years.
What keeps Monica from speeding? Speeding tickets.
That's right.
I don't know. I see why they write them now.
Oregon ranks number 3, and that was the year after recreational marijuana was made legal. I just want to point that out there. And per this article, and I quote, it says, "There's probably no connection between the two, except the state is making a whole lot of money off both." I think that's pretty funny.
That's pretty legit too, I'm sure.
Number 2 is South Carolina, which I never would have guessed.
Me either.
No?
It's all those small towns.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
The cops
I'm
you're
telling
talking
you.
about.
You drive throughs, they are. I'm telling you.
And ranking number 1 is the great state of Wyoming. Did you know that Wyoming's speed limit is 80 miles an hour?
I did, but only because I was researching that earlier. Otherwise, I had no idea.
The speed limit is 80 miles an hour, and people still need to go faster.
I have to think they're getting pulled over in the non-80 mile an hour zones because they're used to going 80 miles an hour.
Yeah. So that does turn out to be 903 tickets per 10,000 people.
That is quite the stat. I definitely think that speeding and getting pulled over for speeding, not actual speeding itself, but getting pulled over for it is super annoying. It makes me really antsy. I want to cry, but there is something worse than that. And I think you're going to agree.
What's that?
When I've been in an accident. Now, I've never been in any major accidents. Have you?
Oh, yeah. I was in an accident when I was 21. I was on business in New Mexico, and someone, I guess, didn't see that they had a red light and they turned left right in front of us, not a Michigan left, a regular left right in front of us. And we were going 50 miles an hour because it was a divided highway. So we were going about 50 miles an hour. We had been driving a brand new rental car, 14 miles on the dial, and the car was totaled.
Oh my goodness. Was that scary?
Oh, it was terrifying because you look and you see what's happening, but there's nothing you can do because you can't communicate with the other driver. So it was almost like it does slow down in your mind. I was in the passenger seat. The driver pulled a Seinfeld and he put his arm over me like he knew what was going to happen.
Oh.
And it was terrifying. And so we were both fine for the most part. I mean, we didn't have any broken bones. We didn't have to go to the hospital. But the other driver was in the ICU for 3 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that was probably the most traumatic accident I've ever been in. I've rear-ended people and I've been rear-ended. I think total is 5 total accidents, which looking back, it sounds like a lot, but
it does.
They were so minor. The biggest one was the one where the car was totaled. So Monica, now that we've told people what terrible drivers we are, let's talk about what people have to go through in order to get a license and a little bit of the history of driving and the automobile. This is the really nerdy part.
This is nerdy, but super fun to me. So we're going to talk nerdy to you for a little bit. All of the states, I mean, we are a federation, so each state has different laws. So what it takes to get your license in one state is not going to be the same as it's going to be in another state. But what's really nice is that our Constitution allows for licenses to cross the border. So if one state has a rule about licenses and you get your license there, your license is good in all 50 states. So that's a little nerdy lesson for you. Now, the different things that you have to do, I can tell you here in Ohio, my son has to take an actual course, and then he has to do 10 hours of driving with an instructor, and then he has to do additional driving with me as his parent. Now in Arkansas, I didn't have to take any extra classes. I just had to do hours with my mom. And when your parents thought you were ready and you were 16, you went and you just took a very easy, I mean, it was like a block. You drove around a block and then you got your license. I know that my son's going to have to do maneuvers, which is probably good because I never learned how to parallel park. And I know we're going to talk about that later.
Oh, we are.
I'm just going to tell you a little bit, just a couple states. There's 50 states, so no way I'm going to go through all of this. We don't want to get that nerdy. In Alaska, the minimum age to get your learner's permit is 14. All the states, it has to do with their statistics, their roads, their cities. So 14 years, there's quite a few that are 14 years. For the most part, to start learning, it's 15 years. And for the most part, it is 16 years to get your license. Now, Connecticut, you need to be 16 years in 4 months, and in Delaware, you need to be 16 years in 6 months. That's the same for Washington, D.C. as well. In Idaho, though, you can get your license at 15. But again, there are all sorts of different requirements in there for each state. Do you remember what your requirements were in Michigan?
Yes, I had to take a driver's ed course either through a private company or at school. And since I was homeschooled, I went to a private company. So it was several weeks long, once a week, and we'd practice together. It was also a way for me to socialize, which I thought was cool. But then to get my license, I had to pass a written test and I had to pass a road test. And the road test, I mean, it wasn't crazy difficult. I don't think I had to parallel park, but I had to park in a parking space. I had to drive around for about 15 minutes and they had me doing various things. I had to get on the freeway for a few minutes. I had to exit, so it was like a 15-minute legit road test before I passed the driving course. And then once I passed the driving course, there was no driving test with the state.
Oh, wow.
If that makes sense. That's the way I remember it. I might be totally wrong.
Well, I think that your memory is probably right, and it's going to be real hard to prove you wrong considering it was a couple decades ago.
Thanks.
There's all sorts of restrictions for kids these days that we didn't have on us, or at least I know in Arkansas we didn't. We could pile in all the kids we wanted to in the back seat. Basically, if there was a seatbelt, they could be in. But here's something that's really interesting in Texas as far as those who are permit holders and who are on this restricted license. Most people are on a restricted license until they're 18 or 21, depending on the state. But in Texas, they can't use a cell phone while driving, but just for the first 6 months.
And then after that, it's fine.
Then after that, I guess it's just free reign down there.
You and I both talked about how we had to take driving tests, and I don't remember having to parallel park for my test, and you didn't have to do it.
No, and I still don't have to do it by choice.
What kind of parallel parker are you?
Well, there needs to be nobody else around, and then I might attempt it. Other than that, I will just keep driving until I can just pull in like a normal position.
I'm so with you. One time I was working in Beverly Hills and my little 2002 Honda Accord, it may have even had a dent in the front bumper from when I rear-ended that person in the huge truck that didn't even notice. And I just wanted some lunch. I'm driving down one of the streets and it was only parallel parking. I was right in front of a restaurant with big windows and people seated right where they could see me. And so I attempted once, failed, started over, attempted twice, failed. And I'm like, okay, the third time's the charm. No, I gave up. I drove away.
Oh, the third time is not the charm here. It's not the charm.
No, I don't think I really learned how to parallel park comfortably. Now, I still don't like to do it under pressure. I still don't like to do it with an audience, but I can comfortably parallel park. And I learned that at the age of 28. Yes, 28.
Did someone teach you, or did you just decide you were going to conquer it and you went downtown and made it happen?
No, I had a friend come to visit and she's like, oh, you just do this and this. And then about 6 months later, my boss came into town to work with me. I couldn't parallel park. I was getting better at it, but I still wasn't great because it had only been a few months. And he's like, no, you just do this, this, and this. And after that, I just city living, I would try. But if a car is behind me, forget it. I will just find someplace else to park.
Same here. It's embarrassing.
No, and I'm glad we're not the only ones. I had dinner with a friend the other night, and she said she found a spot right in front of the restaurant. She was trying to parallel, but there was someone behind her, and she just couldn't. So she drove around until she found a regular spot that she could just pull in.
That reminds me of one of my favorite memes that says, how do you parallel park? Park somewhere else.
That's exactly me.
So speaking of driver's licenses, I was wondering, when did we actually have to start having those here? And the very first driver's license were issued in 1903 in Massachusetts and Missouri, but they didn't require any test. It wasn't until 1908 when Rhode Island, pun intended, was the first state to require an exam. And a really fun fact is that Henry Ford, and of course we know he practically invented the modern day automobile, he did not get his license, his driver's license, until 1919 when he was 56 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm sure he could drive before then, but he wasn't licensed. I thought that was a fun little fact. In 1959, finally, all of the states required an exam and a license, and that ended with South Dakota finally deciding that that was something that they needed. Then that got me thinking, okay, so you need a license to drive. Mm-hmm. What other restrictions do we have when we're driving that we have to learn about other than the obvious ones, which are, stop. Mm-hmm. These are the stoplights. These are how they work. But I was thinking through all of my drives, speed limits. Each state is so different. Whenever I take my trip to Arkansas, I just feel like they're not all the same. And it made me wonder if we even had federal regulations on speed limits. And there is a little bit of an interesting history to that. It wasn't until 1901 that we had our very first speed limit in all of the US, and that was in Connecticut. Now that speed limit was 12 miles in cities and 15 miles on country roads, which is so slow. I think we can ride our bikes that fast.
It's so slow.
Okay. From that point on, different states would decide if they wanted to have speed limits or maybe just cities. I know that my dad talked about growing up in Missouri and how the posted speed limit was safe and prudent, but he was still able to get a ticket. Go, Dad.
Now I know where you get it from.
Yes. Well, when your dad is a drag racer, you get a little bit of a lead foot. In 1974, President Nixon actually signed the Emergency Highway Energy Conservation Act, and it set a maximum speed limit to just 55 miles per hour across all of the states. Now, what's really interesting about this is it had absolutely nothing to do with safety. It was actually in response to OPEC quadrupling oil prices. And this was a way to help us not slide into a recession that they were seeing in Europe.
Oh, I did not know that. That's really fascinating.
I did not either. I was fascinated by the fact that we have speed limits due to nothing that has to do with keeping us safe. Yeah, very, very shocking. And that was actually kept on the books until 1995. In 1995, Congress voted to repeal it. And then it went back to each state setting its own speed limits. And when I read this, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense now. When I was growing up and we would go to Illinois, it would take us 12 hours to get to my cousin's house. And then in the late 90s, it was suddenly we were getting there faster. Well, that is why, because some of the speed limits changed. And then over time, actually knocked off 2 hours on that trip after some highways got built.
Okay.
But yeah, as a kid, I kept thinking, why are we getting here faster than we used to? Were we making better trips at the gas station? So we don't have a federal speed limit anymore. That's not a thing. It's state to state. Now, there is a stretch of road in America where you can go 85 miles an hour. Now, I want you to think about stereotypical America, and let's guess which state that's in.
I mean, we were just talking about the rebels in South Dakota, so I would say South Dakota.
I thought it was going to be that too, but actually it's Texas.
Go Texas.
A stretch, just a tiny little stretch from Austin to San Antonio, where you can travel at 85 miles an hour. Now, I will tell you from going from Dallas to Houston last summer that most people already go 85 miles an hour, and it was frightening. And they even go that speed at night. We have 85 miles an hour, and that is actually faster than the posted restricted limits on the Autobahn. However, the Autobahn, you can go as fast as you want, but there are some restricted areas, and they do restrict at 80 miles per hour on some areas and going as low as 60 in some others.
Right.
That was very interesting this summer. I see that Arkansas is on there, and I can believe that though, because there are just some really long stretches in that state. And just like a little region of Texas. I like how they put, if you look at this, it's like Texas, like they say it's a whole nother country.
It is. It's got its own little pockets.
It's got its own little pockets.
Yeah.
It's funny. And then California, their highest you can go there is 70.
Okay. Having lived there, nobody drives 70. You will only get a ticket if you are going 90 and everybody else is going 60. Nobody drives 70. They drive so fast.
But they can put down that they only allow you to go 70 so they can. But I feel the same way when I look at Texas. I'm like, everybody there is going that blue. They are going that 85. Illinois, I know that it says that their speed limit is 70. That has only changed recently in the past 2 or 3 years, I would say, because a lot of where I go through in Illinois will still be 55 and 60 miles an hour.
I believe that.
Very frustrating because there is no traffic.
Well, that was super fun. I love learning the history of the driver's license and what people have to do and speeding. Now we're going to get into what really makes our blood boil. Your blood boil,
gosh.
my blood boil. And it's different for everyone. I have met some of the nicest people who confess to me that they have some serious road rage and let out expletives that I can't put on the show. Monica, what drives you crazy? Because I want to know. I have so many things that drive me crazy or used to, and I know it's different for everybody. What are yours?
Okay, overall, I try not to get road ragey, but I definitely have some pet peeves that I will share with you, quite a few here. A couple of them have to do with yellow lights. First of all, a yellow light is for caution. You do not stop at a yellow light. You slow down and you proceed with caution. I cannot handle it when people stop at a yellow light.
How are you supposed to slow down and not stop?
Oh, I will teach. Come ride with me through a yellow light. I almost pride myself on hitting all the yellow lights in town. As I come home from picking up Lillian, boom, 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 right through them. But you're slowing down. So the difference is if you were running and you suddenly had to stop on a dime, right? Or are you running and you're slowing down and you go past that dime? That is what.
But are you really slowing down, or are you speeding up so that you don't hit the red? That's the difference.
No, I take my foot off the gas.
Okay.
And other people put their foot on the brake.
Yeah, no, that's different.
That's the difference. Yeah. So it's just a minor pet peeve, probably more so in town because, like I said, I like to hit all those yellow lights and just boom, boom, boom through downtown and not get stuck. Oh, by the way, the downtown is 1.5 miles long, everyone, and is super tiny, and I don't even know why I'm complaining.
My dad has a story about when he lived in Hawaii, how he had to learn to drive there because the people in Oahu tend to stop at yellow lights, and he's from Michigan, and people in Michigan go through yellow lights.
Yeah, they probably put on the gas.
Yeah, we do. I still do.
Yes.
So yeah, he's like, Monica, you really have to pay attention to where you drive. And at the time I was driving in all sorts of states. And I took heed. And no, I've only rear-ended someone once at a red light.
Ooh, goodness.
And I've also been rear-ended once at a red light. So.
Yeah, I have had that happen. Yellow light, I have another little yellow light pet peeve. It's when you're turning left and nobody pulls into the intersection when it's green. And usually when it goes from green to yellow, about 2 or 3 people can get through and turn left, especially in a busy intersection.
That's right, because all the people on the other side are supposed to be slowing down.
They are stopping, right, because it's hitting red. When you're still getting a yellow, because that's kind of how the lights work.
Yep.
And they just really, and again, I'm going to complain about traffic in this small town, but it is very tiny. And in the mornings when you're trying to get through it to get to school to drop off your kids, there's buses. The buses literally take up a block. One bus. And if one person messes up and doesn't turn left on that yellow, it will back us all the way up to the next
It's so annoying.
Over.
I have the same annoyance here.
Yes. So, and that's just in general, I can't stand it. And I know Zach can't stand it.
People, if you're turning left, pull into the intersection. It's okay. You're supposed to. You're not stopped.
If no one has ever told you this and you've been honked at a lot, then you're the problem, okay? Another thing I can't stand is when people drive slow in the fast lane. If I have to pass you on the right, you are using the left lane incorrectly.
Hello, Washington drivers. No left lane campers. No left lane campers.
We got it, Washington. We're going to put out a PSA on a billboard because Monica has talked about this.
I'm going to do a mini-sode on Washington drivers.
You should. I would enjoy that. Also having to do with the fast lane, bobbing and weaving in and out of the fast lane. I can't stand that, and my husband does it. It makes me feel unsafe. Sorry, Zach. Love you. You know I don't like that. Just like he doesn't like it whenever I press on the gas and let off the gas, press on the gas, let off the gas. He's always saying, use your cruise control. And
is it because he doesn't like the waste of gas, or he doesn't like the inconsistency in speed?
He doesn't like the inconsistency. Probably he can feel it. He cannot stand it. I don't think he's ever thought about the gas part. Don't listen to that part.
Oh, Paul would be all about the gas. He'd be like, that's a waste of gas, right? You're using an extra half gallon per 900 miles.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I know this isn't pet peeves or this isn't Zach's pet peeves about Monica's driving, but another pet peeve he has, and something I did have to teach myself because, I had a 69 Camaro. My dad was a drag racer, Do you want to guess how I used to take off from stop signs?
At the speed of light.
Yes, like, got it!
Peeling out. I love it.
Like up until probably 5 years ago, and I really had to work on that. So Zach has several pet peeves for when I drive.
Oh,
I have
that's
several
funny.
pet peeves for when he's the passenger, like he's talking.
Hold on. Does Zach try to tell you where to park?
Oh my, if I'm driving, Zach tries to tell me how to do everything. And then I tried to tell him, Zach, I have driven cross country. I have driven more miles in my lifetime than you ever will. And this is a true story.
Oh my God. I
It's
so relate.
funny.
I so relate. I've driven so much in my life.
Yeah.
And then we pull into a parking lot and everything's fine. And Paul's like, why don't you park there? Like, because I don't want to. I don't want to. I know exactly
driver.
where I'm going. He's like, what about that one? I'm like, it's okay.
Oh,
I've got it under
gosh.
control. I got us all the way here. I'm going to park where I want to park. You just
It
take
must
it
be
easy.
hardwired into men, something to do with that. I'm not sure, because we are not the only women who have complained of this.
No. So, okay. So if we're going to launch into my pet peeves, I would say that is definitely in the top 5. I can't
Okay.
say if it's 1 or 5, but it's going someplace with Paul and he's going to tell me how to drive. One time he was trying to tell me how fast I would have to go to get over into the left lane to turn onto the street for our house.
That's pretty.
I'm sorry, what? And it was dark. And you know what? We weren't even in the same car. He called me.
I almost
and he
spit out
said-
the water I was drinking.
He called
Seriously,
me.
I had it on
He
mute.
said, hey,
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
you're just gonna have to be careful, because you have to go across those 2 lanes of traffic and blah, blah, blah to get over
well,
to.
it sounds like maybe he was being thoughtful and
I'm sorry. That's called
maybe-
being a backseat driver.
Oh,
I've been
yeah.
driving for just as long. I have made that turn and gotten off that exit many times. I was like, I'm sorry. If you're going to try to tell me how to do this and you want me to talk to you through it, that's unsafe. I'm hanging up. Yeah. Okay. So that would be pet peeve number 1.
oh gosh,
That
just imagining Zach calling me and backseat driving me. I
No,
would've
he was
hung
just
up.
in front of me.
I'm just such a hanger upper, which he also enjoys. That I would be like, eh.
Yeah, I've got to go if I'm going to do this safely. Bye.
Another thing that really bothers me is not using your turn signal. Oh,
Yes.
it's a huge pet peeve. And if you are not using one in a parking lot, that can also be dangerous. More accidents happen in parking lots than anywhere. I will tell you this from the amount of claims that are called into the insurance agency. A lot of them happen in parking lots, and a lot of them happen
Terrible.
in people's own driveways with their own cars. So use that turn signal. It's there for a reason. It's to signal that you're turning so other people can react to what you're doing.
Absolutely. I love that. I would definitely agree with the turn signal. I think using a turn signal has probably saved me numerous accidents. And I get really irritated when people don't use their turn signal, especially for changing lanes on the freeway. Because how am I supposed to know what you're doing?
Oh, yes, definitely. And I think that goes back to the bobbers and the weavers. They rarely use a
No,
turn
they
signal.
don't.
I have another pet peeve, which I'm going to also give out as a PSA. So my mother is handicapped, and we have a conversion van that loads on the side for her. So we have to park at the parking spots that show the little van symbol. And those always have the yellow stripes on the side to the right. And that's because that's actually a loading zone. I cannot tell you how many people will park on that yellow striping. And then that means my mom can't get back into the vehicle.
Isn't their parking space big enough? Why
The
do they
park-
park on the yellow,
They
on the
park there
stripes?
as a parking space. So they park
Oh my God. What a bunch of
real.
a-holes, honestly.
Kind of. So I like to, that's why I'm saying pet peeve / PSA. Right now, I want to assume some of you have done that. You just didn't know better. You didn't think it through. So next time you see that, don't park on it. Just like if you saw the yellow lines going into Walmart, that is, you don't park there, do you? So anywhere that you see the yellow lines, you don't park on them. And so what my brother actually does, because he takes my mom around a lot, is he uses a big orange cone that you might see out by a semi truck on the side of the road. And he puts that there. And he said that really fixes the problem. But it's just kind of sad that we had to resort to that because either people are ignorant or probably the first thing you said about them.
That's unfortunate. I just always figured that's not where you're supposed to park. So I just never
Right. I mean, I think people know better.
All right. So you want to hear mine? Because we have a lot of similarities.
I do. I was kind of anxious.
You already heard my number one.
Yes.
The backseat driver that's driving in the car in front of you. That's number one.
So good.
I would say people who don't use their blinkers would be my number two.
Mm-hmm.
Number three would be the left lane camper because it's just annoying.
Yes.
And my family in Germany just went off about American drivers and how they don't use the left lane properly because they should be using it to speed up and pass another driver instead of just hanging out there driving.
It's utility. Definitely.
Right. That way you don't have to pass on the right because you're not supposed to because the slow drivers are supposed to be over there. So it's a progression, right, slow, middle, medium, left, passing.
Yes.
That's the way it's supposed to be. The people who don't pull into the middle of the intersection to make a left turn, very valid pet peeve. And I want to say this would round out my pet peeves is the people who don't know the order of a four-way stop.
Oh my goodness, for sure.
The people who don't know the order of a four-way stop. If you get there at the same time, the person to your right goes first, unless they are turning, and then you go first.
Yes.
That's
how
the
is this
order.
so hard for people?
I don't understand, but yet in Washington State, everyone's waving their hands. You go. No, you go. No, you go. No, you go. No, it's if you get there at the same time, the person on the right goes first unless you're turning left. And
that's
then
almost why
you
we
go
need
after.
Roundabouts everywhere.
Friends, we do hope you enjoyed hearing from the experts as much as we did, because we feel totally validated and vindicated that many of our driving pet peeves are in fact universal. For extended show notes, please head over to our website, twomonicaspodcast.com, where you can find all the nitty-gritty and driving details that we used in this episode. If you'd like to connect with us on social, please find us on Facebook at Two Monicas, Instagram at Two Monicas, and Pinterest at Two Monicas Podcast, or email us directly, twomonicaspodcast@gmail.com. And if you can, support the show. Use our link when you shop cutting-edge skincare and beauty extras at juvene.com/Foxy. That's JUVENAE.com/Foxy. Now time for some much overdue music credits. Sounds provided by Zapsplat.com. Music by Kevin MacLeod, Glitter Blast, Fig Leaf Rag, Hustle, Fun in a Bottle. Music by Liron, Summer. Music by Winnie the Moog, Dirty Hardcore Groove. Background Motivating Corporate, Energetic Upbeat, and Spy Story. Music by Lilo Sound, A Horse of Course. We do hope you'll join us next week for another episode of Nothing Serious, Seriously.
You might have noticed a change in your neighborhood lately. Yep, Sprint stores are now T-Mobile stores. Now that Sprint is T-Mobile, you get more coverage, value, and benefits than ever before. We've invested billions to bring our 5G from big cities to small towns across America. And great coverage is just the start. From high-speed mobile hotspot data to weekly deals and giveaways, our customers get tons of great benefits. Head to your new T-Mobile store to learn more.
Qualifying service and capable device required. Coverage not available in some areas. Some uses may require certain plan or features. See T-Mobile.com.
Switching to Geico is a good idea, especially when you consider everything.
First off, Geico makes it easy to switch. They have licensed agents available 24/7 online or over the phone.
But if it's so easy, you might start thinking everything is easy, even big wave surfing. And it's not. It's actually quite difficult.
Well, if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds on car insurance. And you could keep saving by bundling your motorcycle, boat, and RV, plus your home or renter's insurance.
But saving money might lead you to make some questionable purchases, like a 20-foot feather boa. And do you know how hard it is to clean a 20-foot feather boa?
Well, they do have an industry-leading mobile app you can use to pay your bill, file and manage a claim, or add a new driver.
But when life gets a little easier, it makes you too confident, and you start calling everyone Ace. And you're better than that.
Well, Geico has a 97% customer satisfaction rating and has been saving people money for 85 years. It's hard to beat that.
But you're right.
Switch to Geico. It's obviously a good idea.